And hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad to have you with us here today for our PWN Votes training. This is the first of a series, and we will talk more later about the other offerings that are in this series. PWN Votes is an intentional opportunity to train both our community and our members with knowledge, skills, confidence, and political clarity to ensure that the voices of trans and cisgender women, gender diverse, and transgender people living with HIV lead transformative voter engagement and civic power building efforts in their communities while keeping ourselves and our communities safe. In 2026, this is a call to action for all of us because we know that voting education, voter engagement needs every single one of us to be involved. So we're going to build some basic skills. We're going to learn from our community to ensure that everyone who is able to engage is prepared and ready to do so. So just a few logistics before we go ahead and get started. This webinar is being recorded. We'll have time for questions throughout, but please go ahead. If you have questions, put them in the chat so we can keep track of them. This is a recording that we want to be able to share on our website. So if you are not presenting, please go ahead and mute yourself at this point in time. We have closed captioning available so that people can go ahead and select the CC option in the toolbar. That will go ahead and perhaps lend a little bit more assistance for folks. If you need help using that tool, please go ahead and let us know. We're going to ask everyone to go ahead and introduce themselves in the chat with name, pronoun, location. And if you have any in-district organizing that you have done and you want to go ahead and drop it in the chat, please feel free to do so. My name is Barb Cardell. I am the PWN USA Leadership Development and Training Manager. I use they, them pronouns, and I am in Boulder, Colorado. I am honored to be here with Myra Franks, Crystal Townsend, and Katie Willingham to present our session on in-district organizing, the what's, the when's, the how's, all of those tools that will help you feel to go ahead and do in-district organizing at this critical time. We're going to ask each of the presenters to introduce themselves when they first come on and share with us. So our objectives are that by the end of the session, as we mentioned, you'll have both the tools and the skills to feel prepared to do in-district organizing with your local community, that you'll understand what it means, that you will have these strategies to connect with your legislators, that you will feel prepared for meetings, and that you will have strategies, as well as having a really clear, successful example of what in-district organizing can look like from our PWN Alabama folks, because they have a very recent example of a really successful meeting that they held. Before we get started, it is important for us, especially now as we are moving into the campaign season, to realize that our nonprofits, 501c3 organizations are really vulnerable. When we go in and we have campaigns that are running, as well as accountability for in-district organizing, it is sometimes easy to get a little confused. And so we want to make sure that we are talking about what it means to be nonpartisan for nonprofits so that we have that level of safety and that we can kind of separate in our minds when we're talking about campaigns and when we actually are talking about work that PWN and other nonprofits support. So nonpartisan, as a reminder, means that you do not in any way advocate, encourage, suggest, imply a preference for a candidate or a political party over another, that you don't advocate voting yes or no on a candidate. When you're doing in-district organizing, these are with our elected officials. We're holding them accountable for votes that they have made when they have been representing us. We are asking them to hear us as their constituents, as people in their district who are going to be impacted by votes that they are taking. And so we want to focus on the individuals, or sorry, we want to focus on the issues, not the individuals. We want to be totally neutral. So saying, you're only saying that because you're of this political party, or I'm going to work to vote you out of office. Those are appropriate conversations, but not when we are representing PWN or another nonprofit. That is a independent 501c4 conversation. And so when we're representing us, we want to talk about access, and we want to avoid pledging or endorsing any candidate or political party. The reason why it's important is that things are going to get really sensitive in this upcoming election. We already have seen a number of efforts to disenfranchise, meaning to keep voters from being able to engage. And we want to make sure that our organizations are safe, our nonprofit organizations are safe. So that means no candidate buttons, no political party organization buttons or things like that. It means that you talk about the issues. So we just wanted to remind everyone about that. So we have a couple of folks on who are new to PWN. We always like to go ahead and start off with our Positive Women Network reminder. So PWN USA is the Positive Women's Network USA. We are a national organization that is led by and for our members. Our members are trans and cisgender women, gender diverse and transgender people living with HIV in the United States. We look at HIV and the epidemic with a racial justice and a gender justice lens, knowing that HIV does not impact all groups equally, but has a harder impact on our communities of color, as well as our gender diverse and transgender folks. So PWN has been around since 2008. We are getting ready to celebrate our 18th birthday, which is pretty exciting. There's going to be a whole bunch of celebrations towards the end of this month where we are going to lift up and celebrate the work that we have done over 18 years. Fairly remarkable. And today we have thousands of members across the United States. We have 8 chapters, including 2 in Texas, the Greater Houston area and the Dallas-Fort Worth. And our chapters, like all of our work, are led by and for our members, and they work hand in hand with the broader community to make sure that we are lifting up our voices in places where they need to be. So, Crystal, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
Thank you, Barb. Hi, everybody. My name is Crystal Townsend. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the program director of organizing at PWN USA. I also live in Houston, Texas, and I want to start off our conversation with really getting a sense of what comes to mind when you think of in-district organizing. So if you can put in the chat or raise your hand and let's see what comes to mind when y'all think of in-district organizing. I see some things coming in. Susan. Yep, go ahead, Susan.
Making sure people know about the voting issues.
Okay.
Voting issues, like we have done in phone banking, like making sure people know about racial profiling. That was a voter issue one year. So many others. Making sure people know about safe syringe houses, all those kind of things that are totally nonpartisan, like they're oriented to human beings.
Absolutely. I see other hands coming up. I see Olga and then NCL. I don't know what NCL stands for, but I'm going to pass it to Olga first.
Also in district organizing is like going in front, trying to go into their local offices. Sometimes that's hard because they'll tell you they're not available, but still go in front of their offices. And if they say you can't come in, have a few people and just sit for a while outside of their office, almost like a little rally if they don't let you in. And eventually they will let you in to talk about things. because they see you're not going
I
away.
Yeah, and I see Zena in the chat saying marches, rallies, protests at government Capitol building, speaking to representatives. Nikayla, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to say research.
Ooh,
Love that answer. Okay, so let's get into it. Can we
got
go
to
to
know
the
your
next
stuff
slide?
first. Got to know
When
your
I
stuff first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next slide, please. All right. Yep. Keep going. So let's talk about I love Nikayla said research because that leads into like, what are we doing and why are we doing this? Organizing is not just about speaking up, but there's always an end game in mind, and there's always a person that you need to move in a certain direction. We call them a target. It can be a legislator, it can be a voter. There are certain people we have in mind who we want to move along in a certain way on our issue. So, looking at these pictures, can y'all see these pictures okay? I hope you can. But we have some pictures with different scenarios. Which one of these would you say is in district organizing? And I can see your hand if you raise your hand, or I can look in the chat. So which one, I guess which one is or is not in district organizing? I see answers coming up. Let me give other folks a chance to respond. Give y'all 10 seconds. All right. Yep. So all of them are different examples of in-district organizing. It's in-district organizing is not just one thing. It can be hosting a town hall. It can be rallying, like Olga said, in front of the office. You could do it in front of the office or in front of the Capitol building. In front of a like significant place. It can be going to City Hall and showing up, getting many people to show up to let folks know, hey, we are serious about this and we have the power of the people on our side. It can be an in-district meeting with your representative or door-to-door conversations with voters. So all of these are ways to organize in district. Next slide. I think we got some experts on this call already, so let's keep it going. This is definitely a space where we are going to learn from one another. Next slide, Barb. All right, so we already talked about this, like in district organizing. If we wanted to give a definition of it, it is an opportunity. Go one slide back. Let's all like ground everyone in what in district organizing before we keep going. It is an opportunity to meet with your elected officials when they are on break and back home or in their district. So your U.S. representatives all have an office in home. They all come back home. And that is a time to organize with them or organize events that show them, hey, we are serious and we plan to like move on this issue. It's a powerful way to organize, to show and demonstrate community interest. Next slide. Uh-oh, next slide. Okay, so why are we organizing in district? Right now, we are living in a time where people feel very disconnected and don't really understand like their own power or what can happen, what they can do, how they can move things. We are seeing a lot of people nervous about talking with their representatives or don't even know where to start. And we have many critical programs on the line, like Medicaid, SNAP, immigration rights. We see ICE in our communities, like reproductive health care and reproductive rights are under attack. Trans rights, funding for HIV programs. Um, all of these things are under attack, and we have an opportunity to do something about it. Some of you know about 7 Days in June. And 7 Days in June is a way for us to show our power across the country. So we are clear that we have the power to make things happen. And we want everyone to know, like, we will hold your hand through it. We will teach you how to do it. But we want to build a culture of like talking to the people who represent us. So let's go to the next slide. All right. Again, when we organize, we win. So community in-district organizing is an opportunity to engage local advocates in what's happening on the national level, on the federal level. We don't always need to be in DC to be effective. Sometimes our representatives are hosting things right down the street from where we live. Um, we know that people are relying on programs and affected by issues that we all see every day, and we can advocate right here at home. So, next slide. Okay. Before I pass it to the Alabama folks, I just want to talk one more time about like what in-district organizing can do. It can build a relationship by being face to face with your elected officials. Um, it is a very effective way. You can do in-district meetings. You can host an event and invite them to your event. By having like a dedicated group of people, you can influence people and allow them to see like who you are and why you care and share your lived experience. Um, this will help to not only build your confidence, but it will build relationships that you can come back to over time. So, this is why we are trying to stress like in district organizing is an opportunity for us. We are not, we are more powerful than we know we are. So, this is what in district organizing offers. And today, we're going to start asking y'all, what are you open to trying? What are you comfortable with doing? So let's go to the next slide. Okay. When to start organizing? You can organize right now. I think the most important thing is number one, find other people who care about your issue to organize with. We have partners on the call from Save HIV Funding that can help break down some of the issues that are happening on the national level. So find you a group, whether it's local or national, to plug in and figure out like, okay, what's happening? How do I talk about this issue? And when our elected officials are on recess, this means that they are working in district, they are at home. And if you are in Texas like me, sometimes you have a senator who might be in Cancun, okay? But find times to engage with them. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. We've talked about some ways that you can do in district organizing, and we'll come back to this, but start to think about like what you would want to try out, what you would feel comfortable with. You can host meetings, you can bird dog. Some of you have already bird dog. I've seen you do it. You can do a rally in the street, do banner drops. You can go to town halls, speak up, disrupt them. You can talk to your neighbors to mobilize them and give them information. You can host postcard parties. I know some of you who have already done this. Or you can make guerrilla art. I think the panels, the Save HIV funding panels are some art that's happening right now around the issue of losing HIV funding. So these are ways that you can organize at home. And many of you, I know, I see you on the call, have already done this. I see a hand before I go to the next slide. I'll pass it to you, Amwa.
Uh, Thank you, Crystal. Would letter writing be part of organizing at home?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Um, let's go to the next slide.
Crystal, before we go to
And
the
that's a
next
really great
slide,
question. If y'all, mm-hmm.
yeah, I was just going to ask, because I think that sometimes people get stuck thinking that in-district organizing is just holding a meeting with a staffer or a legislator when they're back at home. And maybe you can expand on that, because I think we want to be really clear that if our definition is that in-district organizing is about groups of people coming together to hold elected officials accountable and to tell them what their policies are going to impact communities, how they're going to impact communities, that everything is in district organizing, all of it, right?
Agree. Barb, something I heard you say, and I see another hand coming up, but something I heard you bring up is like it's not just a one-time meeting. And once you have that first meeting or that meeting that you've been trying to get on the books, what I notice is it becomes easier for people to like engage and talk with their representatives. So it's never meant to be a one-time thing. And getting to that first meeting can be very challenging. It can feel like like a lot of pressure, but it's never meant to be a one-time thing. Um, I love this idea of finding a different way to engage your elected officials throughout the year. I don't know who I heard this from, but I love this idea of like, hey, in the first quarter, we're going to do an in-district meeting. In the second quarter, we're going to invite them to an event. In the third quarter, we're going to write them. In the fourth quarter, we're going to invite them to a town hall, or we're hosting an end of the year party, or we're going to send them a picture of us from the time that we met earlier this year and say happy holidays. Like all of this is in district organizing. It is building a relationship over time. So I see a hand from Charlisa.
Yes, hi. I did put in the chat because I didn't know what does bird dogging mean. I've never heard that phrase before.
Yeah, okay, that's a question. And the first time I heard bird dogging, I felt like, what? That sounds so cool. Like, what is it? Charlize, the way I think of bird dogging, and I would love to hear somebody else's definition, but it is asking the question over and over again until you get the answer. Sometimes we know our representatives are trying to avoid a certain topic, and that might be walking out of the coffee shop or a local restaurant. And we know where they go every morning for coffee. and we meet up with them and we ask our question until they answer. And we ask until they answer. That is what bird dogging is demanding that answer. I don't know. I see hands coming up. So, Olga, did you
You
want to
answered that well.
add to
Thank
that?
you.
Wanda, I see your hand.
It's a polite way of saying that we stalk them. We don't cause harm. We don't cause danger. We don't, inhibit business and things like that. But essentially, that's kind of what we're doing with a purpose.
I
With the
love it.
purpose,
And
emphasis on purpose.
you both explained that
Heavy
well,
on
and
the
I
purpose.
love it. I love it.
Yep. I see some hands coming up. I don't know who this is. Motorola Moto.
Kenya.
And if you're talking, you're still on mute.
Kenya.
Oh, hey, Kenya.
hmm Hi. I did it at the wrong time though. I did it at McCormick at the ASY.
You said you did it at the wrong time.
Yeah, but Kelly said you did. She said, "Oh my God!" She said, "You didn't know you was bird dog?" And I said, "I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what the bird dog was."
Listen, oftentimes we are doing a thing before we have the language for it, but I feel like
It was the
that
passion.
wasn't the wrong
Passion in
time.
Kenya. Passion in Kenya comes out of nowhere, and it was so everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, you did it so perfectly." I was like, I gotta do it on point another time."
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Kenya. I'm going to pass it to Olga, then LaDon, and then we're going to keep going. Oh, you're muted, Olga.
Okay, it's trying to get them to answer questions or get them to say something that they do not want other people to hear. Yeah, it's fun to do, especially when they don't realize what you're doing. Like sneak-in calls, like when you're in their office visits, record their office visit. Um, I got a lot of things on there that they didn't want people to know in sitting in their office having discussions with them. Um, or just getting just hounding them with question over the same question over and over, but worded a different way to confuse them till they either till they say something. And most of the time by that, they're so aggravated, they're going to say something that they don't want people to see or do something that they don't want people to see, like put you away or whatever, or say something very rude to you. That's my bird dogging.
I was just gonna give Charlisa an example of what she do. Charlisa, when we're in those meetings and you don't understand something and you make sure you're going to get the answers to what you want to know, that is what bird dogging is, Charlisa. You do it all the time. You just didn't know that was the language to it, baby girl.
Bless your heart for saying that. You're right. Thank you. Thank you, LaDon.
I love that. I see a question from Myra. Myra, you said, is having several people in the room with the same question a form of dogging? I would say yes. And I remember an example that comes to mind. I remember Nana, it's somewhere on YouTube. It was Nana, it was a group of them following Senator, what's his name? That's always passing out, Lord. What's
Mitch
McConnell.
McConnell. We'll get the link and we'll share it with people. Yeah.
So they were bird dogging him up the escalator, and yes, there were a few of them. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. That is a form of bird dogging. Let's see if I don't know how we're doing on time, if we're okay, but I see another hand. Wanda, I'll pass it to you.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Somebody said something about being in the office and I don't know if they meant they were recording without them knowing, but we can't do that, can we?
Yes,
No,
we
we
You're
can.
cannot.
talking about
If they say personally, no recording, then you can't record. And they got to say it at the beginning of the meeting. But if they see that, then you're able to record because it is a visit and it's a form of note taking.
Okay, I've always been told no, but okay.
They have to specifically say no recording.
Actually, I think Olga, it's the other way. You have to specifically ask to record.
Yeah.
But if it's okay, I'm gonna phone a friend. And Max, if you're still on, do you mind if I ask you? Looks like Max might
I
have
think
needed
he
to step
left.
away. We'll go ahead and we'll double check, but
Yeah.
I know for a number of folks at AIDS Watch, they say that unless you specifically ask to record or to share a
Yeah.
photo even publicly, that you are not able to, that there's an expectation of privacy
Yeah.
in legislative offices. So we will verify, but I
Let's
think
look into that because I was told that's to be very polite and nice and all that to ask them, but you don't really have. That's what I was told by CPD. But yeah, I could be wrong.
yeah.
Because
I think that
that
if
doesn't
you,
give a good because we want to keep a good relationship with them, and that's not keeping a good relationship with them. So yeah, I could be wrong.
yeah, and in varying states, there's legality around recording. So this is what we love is we have these community conversations and we come up with questions that we want to go ahead and learn a little bit more about further. So here's the great news is that everybody who registered for this webinar, as we said, we're recording. So we're going to send out slides, we're going to send out recordings. So send out the answers to the recording or not, as well as a link to the spectacular example of bird dogging, which is Nanakana PWN's founder chasing Mitch McConnell through Reagan National Airport, asking him about the Affordable Care Act. And it is probably one of the best and most spectacular examples of someone really making sure that we get our elected officials on the record. And so we will send all of that. And I'm sure there will be other things that come up that we want to make sure that you all have. So this is a work in progress. This is a session where we are learning what we need to learn with and for each other. So thank you all for these great questions.
Thank you, Barb.
Yes, Barb, the one thing I would add, as we queue up Myra and Katie from Alabama is when y'all are doing your planning and figuring out what you want to do in district, always keep the why in the back of your mind. Like, why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish? There's always a why, and there's always a who. Who do we need to involve? So that is the most important thing. And if you keep your long-term focus in the front of your mind, I think it will help answer some of your questions. Like none of this is supposed to be like something you need to go to school on. Some of it is, just checking in with your group, with the people you're organizing with, and really centering yourself like, why are we doing this? And who do we need to talk to? Is this a relationship that we really want to, I guess, blow up or end? Or is this something we're trying to build over time? So those questions will help you answer, okay, so it makes sense to just ask, can we take a picture? Can we record? So some of those questions will come to you. I would just say keep a long-term focus and be clear about like, why are we doing this? And that will help you to figure out what's the best next step, I think. Let's pass it to Katie and Myra so they can talk about a recent example, a powerful example of their in-district organizing, along with our Summer of Freedom. So I love that. I'll pass it to, am I
Actually,
passing
you're
it
going
to
to
you,
pass it
Barb, or
to, you're going to pass
Katie?
it to me. Yep. And I'm going to
Okay,
go ahead
thank you.
and spotlight our folks. Crystal, do you mind looking for Myra and spotlighting up? There we go. There's Myra. Hi, Myra.
Hi, how are
Okay.
you?
Good, 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 good. So
How is it?
Myra, I'm gonna go ahead and spotlight you here. So we got Myra and we have Kate, so Myra Franks and Katie Willingham from our PWN Alabama chapter, and they're gonna talk a little bit about basically Alabama, showing us how it's done, setting up an in-district meeting and having a conversation with a staffer from an elected official. But before we do that, Myra and Katie, Myra, why don't you go first and introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Myra Franks. Pronouns she, they. Um, I live in Fayette, Alabama, and I am the outreach coordinator for the Alabama chapter of the Positive Women's Network, and also a co-coordinator for the Policy Fellowship this year. So that's me. So you want to know how this happened?
Yeah, Myra, why don't you go ahead and first off start off by talking about how you connected with staff, how you set up a meeting. What did you do? Because we got the steps here listed on the screen so that people can kind of get a sense of the general outline. But we want to know, like, from your perspective, tell us about it. What was it like?
Yeah, contacting the office and the staff is very important. You contact them, be cordial, of course. Every time a action alert came out, I would send it and it would go right to my representative. So they got a lot of stuff from me, and I would read their response emails. And I think that they got tired of me for continually contacting the office. So they set up the meeting. They got me in touch with one of the district offices that was closest to me, Mr. Will Grice, who is the field office director at Robert Adderholt's office in Jasper, Alabama. I immediately tried to form a group. Katie, she also lives in the district. My cousin and dear friend in the struggle, Miss Catherine Stove, she was also at the meeting there beside me. I was thinking that she would share her experience with me, and because she's been with me on my HIV journey, but she confided in me and told me that she's been having some, I won't say difficulty, but she noticed that a lot of people in the community were having to take care of their elderly family member, their parents, and they didn't have any information about Alzheimer's. So we kind of linked aging with HIV to the issue that she wanted to present to our legislators. Yeah, and I think that is a good strategy, is to link issues together sometimes, because in rural areas where we stay, it is very important that we all kind of work together on things. If they're willing to stand beside me and help us talk about HIV, we can stand with them while they talk about their issues. So that's basically it, being persistent. Like I said, I think that they got a little tired of some of the emails I was sending. And they contacted me and got me connected to the district officer. And he came to Fayette to meet us. He said that he would be out and he'd be near Fayette. And we had coffee. We went to a coffee shop and had coffee. And he was a very nice man. He was very attentive. We saw him taking notes. The meeting, it changed drastically because what we were going to talk about, he didn't know anything about HIV. He didn't know anything. He's never heard of the Ryan White program, and he's never heard of Ryan White. So we like started from scratch and just kind of educated it on him with him on that, and intend to go back soon with more information and get our agenda going about increasing funding for the fiscal 2027 year. So
Yeah, that's a really important fact to share. To think about is that you might have a set agenda that you are ready to talk about, and then all of a sudden you realize you need to take a step back and do a little bit of education first, because otherwise it's just throwing information that doesn't have anything to stick to. So that is a great reminder. To just kind of maybe ask a question like, how much do you know about HIV? And when you first start your meeting, to make sure that that there's enough education there for it to be meaningful. And then
Yeah.
the part that I just want to lift up that just made my heart go pitter patter was this is the start of the relationship, and that you're going to meet with them again, because that is the definition of our at home organizing, our holding our elected officials accountable. That is critical, right?
Yes. And we did point out to them how crucial funding is, because he looked at us and he said, well, you don't look like you have HIV. Which that's what they say. He looked at us and said that. So, and we told him that because of the funding, and I told him because especially my mental health, that is crucial that these funds, be preserved. Matter of fact, we're aging. We put the aging part in there again. We need more funding. So he took a lot of good notes. He took a
Yep.
lot of good notes. He
So-
did come back and asked about what was it, Medicare and how it works. Katie?
Yes. Yes, I believe so.
Well, that is a great overview, Myra, and a segue to Katie. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Willingham. My pronouns are she, they. And I am co-chair of the Positive Women's Network Alabama chapter.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie. And Katie, when you and I were talking about the Alabama meeting, you mentioned that there were some tensions that you think about before you go into meetings with elected officials representing HIV, but also as a openly trans woman. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I guess as advocates, we all have our comfort zones. Things that we're comfortable with doing, things that we don't feel so much is in our lane. With me, talking to people is oftentimes out of my comfort zone. I'm very introverted, and so I deal with that. But recently, especially being a woman of transgender experience, I feel all the more uncomfortable, especially going to talk to Republicans, knowing they're trying to eradicate me right now. They're labeling me as a terrorist, my community, any organization affiliated with trans people, or, and so I worry before going to meetings like this. my concern a lot of times is my presence going to hurt our cause? Because I'm so hated by Republicans right now. I'm less than human. I am, to be associated with an organization I fear brings down the reputation, or in their eyes, the reputation of the organization. And so I deal with that. I deal with that fear. But I went anyway because I'm co-chair of my chapter. This is my responsibility. My sister needed help. She didn't need to go alone. And so I felt I needed to be with her. And even in my discomfort, I will have your back, Myra. I love you. I will always have your back. But I felt extremely uncomfortable doing it. Yeah, that's my discomfort.
Yeah. Katie, thank you for sharing that. I don't know if you could see the chat or the list of participants, but people are giving you so much love and sharing that they, oftentimes feel uncomfortable as well, and acknowledge that it's it's a difficult time and place to be going and advocating, and that they lift up your leadership. And so I just wanted to, in case you missed that, say that
Thank you.
you do remarkable work in incredibly brave ways, and acknowledging that there are some meetings that might not be safe for people to go to. There might be meetings that are not in locations that are acceptable for people to go to. And so when we talk about the variety of what we do, it could be that a town hall in a town that's not safe, or that's really, really conservative, or MAGA, like flying all the MAGA flags or whatever, that we need to make sure that we think about whether or not that's the place for any of us to be safe. So thank you for bringing that point up. That's so important. The next part I wanted to ask about, and this is to both of you, is how did you prepare for this meeting? I, would have probably 12 different things I would want to talk about. How did you make sure that you were focused, and also that you knew who was going to take on each part?
Well, we kind of talked about it together before meeting, as much as we could. PWN helped us to prepare by helping us research our talking points. They were really awesome in helping us prepare with that. But that being said, I mean, you prepare as much as you can. But like me, I have issues with my memory, and then in the moment you have your nerves, and so a lot of times you forget a lot of your preparation. You forget a lot of what you've been trying to memorize. So I try to myself. I guess I try to have at least one or two things to say, in case, like something to say in case the conversation went quiet, or something. And that happened at one point in the meeting, when Myra when he and Myra were speaking, and the conversation kind of comes to a close, and there's a dead air space, and so you don't want that dead air space. You want so you have to kind of jump in there, and so I tried to have something prepared to say, and most of them completely left my mind except for one. So I brought up housing. That was very important. But yeah, I guess that was my preparation.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. And housing is a important thing to bring up because we know that housing is healthcare, and that it is the number one concern that people living with HIV have around funding and funding cuts. So good to talk about it early, often, and to be able to link it. Myra, how did you prepare?
Well, the first thing I did was reach out to Katie to see if she was willing. And I kind of stood on her strength because she's done these meetings much more than I have. You know, she's been in the field way longer than I have. So we got together and we collaborated. And just like she said, we did, work with PWN. They helped us out a lot by giving us an outline, helping us with the outline and to not be so nervous during this time, talking about their experiences. That they are people just like we are. They put their pants on one leg at a time. And I also reached out to the ASOs in the district. He has 2 ASOs. Robert Adderholt has 2 ASOs in his district. 5 Horizons in Tuscaloosa is one spot, and then they have Thrive in Huntsville. So I particularly intentionally reached out to them and got something that was specific for their organizations to give to him. And so, but like you say, sometimes things don't go as planned. He didn't know anything. I did see a glimpse of some of the stuff that was in the comments, and that's one reason we have to go back. Okay, the door is open for us to have these meetings, and it appears he's the liaison between us and our agenda and and what's going on in DC. So if we can at least get the information to him, since he is totally he doesn't know anything about HIV, nothing. Now we have a chance to educate him and his staff in Jasper. And we thinking about trying to do a town hall there too. Since he's so open to us, getting to know and learn stuff. He said that he would definitely study some, He did take a lot of notes. So. Okay, Barb, Joffrey, are you there?
That's powerful, Myra and Katie. Very powerful. Great work.
Yeah. My first in-district meeting, I sent an email out and to him and thanked him for that meeting and preparing another email asking about another to come and talk to him in his office and meet the staff. So. And maybe bring up some other issues. I think that that's one way that we can keep them engaged is by bringing up the issues. And because there are so many intersections to HIV. A big thing going on now is the fentanyl crisis. And so substance use disorder and HIV, they are very much connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just get in touch with them, get the needed information, know the information, and tell how it's impacting the community. Like I said, this man, he's the liaison. We want to go to other district offices and share information with them and educate people. I always push education. Education is much needed in the rural areas. We live in rural areas, y'all. So when we went in, Katie and I had already discussed the fact that he might not know anything about HIV. So
Yeah, I think when talking to legislators, representatives, I think we always have to go into a meeting assuming they don't know anything. Be prepared for that. And because if they know anything, that's great. That just helps. But we need to be prepared to explain as much as possible, like they don't know, because most of the time they don't.
Congratulations, guys.
Absolutely. I I want to open it up because I think Barb dropped off, but we are still recording and we're good. So I'm gonna take over. I'm gonna have the slides up in a second so we can get into like how to prepare for a meeting if that's the way that you're gonna go. So Myra and Katie, thank y'all for sharing your experiences on like what it was like to even prepare and even like the feelings going into a meeting. Like, what are they thinking? How am I going to show up? How are they going to receive me? I know that's a lot, and something that we should talk about later is like, how do we decompress after a meeting? Because that should be a part of our organizing strategy and like how we incorporate healing justice into this work. So, um, I saw a question. Let's see if folks have a question for y'all, and then let's move on to talk about like how to do a meeting. Did I see a question come up? Susan, did you have a question?
No, that was a mistake. I meant to put up the thumbs up, and no. I thank them for
Okay.
the perspectives, and that this great conversation is so important. That's all. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I see LaDawn's hand. I think she has a question for y'all.
So I just want to know, like, how did that make you feel? Did it motivate you more to want to do more? Like, I just want to know, how did it make y'all feel?
I'm sorry, how does what make us feel?
What you did, being able to go to the Capitol, educate, and, really build a relationship, because that's what it sounds like you're doing. You're building a relationship. So, like, how does that really make you feel?
It feels empowering. Um, it it feels like we accomplished something.
Mhm.
Um, that and just that we met with him. How much we were able to educate him is actually probably little, unless he reads our leave behinds. But it's the relationship building that's important. We met someone from that office and had a friendly meeting. Hopefully established a good vibe relationship with him. And if you can get a good relationship with someone on staff, that's a foothold into the office, because you may not be talking to Adderholt or the representative, but they do. And if you could change their mind in any way, maybe they can, maybe that will spread to the rest of the office. That's the hope.
Thank you.
Myra, did you want to add something to it? I think, Katie, that was a beautiful way to describe like how it feels afterwards. Did you want to add anything, Myra?
yeah, I'm with Katie on that. It was very empowering, because we went in afraid. Here we are in a very red district, and we're meeting this man for the first time, and we didn't know how he's going to receive Black women or people of trans experience. but we went anyway. And then we have obstacles in our district. The district spans well over 100 miles. It's, so the way that they have did the district, it goes all the way from Tuscaloosa up until almost Tennessee. So we have our challenges with doing stuff, but we're gonna we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the best we can with what we got.
Thank you, Mom.
So, thank you. Barb, I know you have a few other slides before we wrap up to show people how to host their own in-district meeting. Do you want, I can present for you, or if you want to do it, just let me know how to help.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much. Sorry, we have a storm that was blowing in, and of course it has messed with all of the everything. But first off, I just want to give both Myra and Katie all of my appreciation. Y'all held a remarkable meeting and are showing us exactly how we need to do it. And I am so grateful, so grateful. You are fierce and amazing advocates, and we all learn so well from you. So thank you for that. If you have more questions, folks, go ahead and put them in the chat. Definitely love and appreciation to both of you. It is remarkable seeing your advocacy and how you work. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here real quick. All right, here we go. And so this is essentially how you go about setting up an in-district meeting. And so Katie and Myra already gave us a high level and really a master class in how to do this. But in case you want to know step by step, this is it. And we're going to go through it. But again, we're going to share the slides with everybody. So you will have an opportunity to go back and to review it and to ask questions. And this is specifically about setting up an in-district meeting when your elected official is coming home and you want to gather a group of you to go and meet with them or their staff or to talk about what our concerns are, especially around right now. We're worried about appropriations for fiscal year 2027. And that's going to be something we're going to be talking about and building on. So how do you organize in district? It is pretty easy. Basically, you want to go ahead and you want to look up your elected official, and we will have the website that you go ahead and do that so that you know who you're contacting. You have one representative and 2 senators that cover your entire state, and you will go ahead and do that. Then you contact their office and request a meeting. It's a very easy thing to do. You just say that I want to have a meeting, I want to talk about this. And then as Myra shared, you need to be persistent about it because they oftentimes say that they're busy, don't have time to schedule. And so continuing to share the action updates and requesting meetings with them are a great way to go ahead and do this. Then you can go ahead. Once you have the meeting set up, it is important to set your goals and to talk about what you want to bring up, who you want to bring with you, and what you want to talk about to make sure that you have assignments and everybody knows what they're going to talk about. And most importantly, and I wanted to ask Myra about this, and hopefully she talked about it, but if not, maybe Myra can put a little bit in the chat. It is so important to have one of the people who is with the group that has requested the appointment who is facilitating the meeting. You do not want to let the staffer or the elected official run the meeting because they're going to talk about all the stuff that they want to talk about. They're going to have their talking points and why they think they're doing such a great job. And we know for a fact that there are some places where they might not know that they are missing the mark, or maybe they are not aware of people living with HIV in their district. And so we want to facilitate the meeting. We want to be respectful, but we also want to make sure that we are claiming our time, that we are taking back our time, that we are making sure that what we are there to talk about is brought up. So that is setting the agenda, determining the attendees. Oftentimes when people hear you have a meeting with an elected official or a staffer, everybody wants to come. That is great. It is critical that there are no more than 3 people, 2, maybe 3 people who are going to be doing the talking, and the rest of the folks can have a role. They can be, taking notes. They can be requesting the photograph at the end. They can be lifting their hands saying "me too" on things. But if we have everybody talking, then it can get really jumbled, and we miss the opportunity to be really focused about our ask. We want to have a debrief after we are done meeting with them. And we want to make sure that we send a follow-up thank you and connect it, as Myra said. This is just the beginning of many, many meetings. And sometimes it might be different people are available to come. It could be that there are different points that you want to raise, but all of that is kind of being planned into this long-term strategy. It's a campaign. It is not just a one and done. And in the slides, there will be more specifics about how you accomplish each of these. I'm just going to go ahead and show you. So this is how you find out who represents you. This is the points around recruiting your group. Then we talk about recruiting populations and stakeholders who you might think about inviting to your meeting. Talk about requesting the meeting, and if they say that they are not going to be able to meet with you or hold a town hall, like Senator Cory Gardner, sometimes you just need to hold it without them and record yourself asking questions to an empty chair and put that out and say, we tried, but they don't want to talk to us. And so here are our questions, and hopefully we'll hear back from them. When we are making connections, sometimes we have to go a little bit shady and hold them accountable for not wanting to talk to us. And especially some of the conservative folks, especially in the South, are not holding town halls, not holding meetings with people. And we want to make sure that people know about it. Here's just a few more tips. Keep calm, carry on. We know that this is what we do, how we are subject matter experts, and especially talking about HIV and connecting it to other federal issues. We are the best at this. And we have PWN to help us with our talking points and make sure we know what we're talking about. Always critical, as we talked about, to know what you want to accomplish. What is your goal? And so having that written down ahead of time and having everybody agree to it means that you won't ping pong around in the meeting and get confused and frustrated and maybe even a little bit angry. That's not effective. And so this is about effective communication. You want to determine your roles, who is going to be talking about what, who will facilitate the meeting. Do your homework. Always good to know what committees the person sits on, how it is overlapping with the issues that you are talking about. Having your talking points ready. And here is a little bit of a plug for our next PWN Votes training session. On June 10th, we actually are going to be launching our HR1 toolkit that our amazing policy department, and especially Sally Thomas, has developed. This is a way to talk to elected officials about the impact of HR1, which is the one big ugly murder bill that passed last year. We want to start holding our elected officials accountable for those votes and lifting up what the impact is for folks who receive SNAP benefits, for challenges around Medicaid and accessing Medicaid, for folks who are no longer able to afford their Affordable Care Act insurance plans because they have to pay more of their premiums. All of that are great points that we want to meet with our elected officials about. And Sally is going to talk about that on June 10th. If you registered for the whole series, then you're already registered for it. But it's going to be amazing. And then, of course, we always have to just lift up our incredible advocate, Olga, who was a part of the protests in Washington, D.C., getting hauled out of one of the hearings, yelling, "You will kill me," because we know that these cuts that have been implemented are going to impact people living with HIV. And so here is a little bit of information about where you can go ahead and learn more for your materials as you are getting ready for these calls. We have one that I just want to lift up that that was launched today with the Save HIV funding program. They have an action alert where they were starting to call members of Congress today as a part of this 7 days of action. And if you are part of the Save HIV funding group and have signed up for it, you actually already have this call to action. It is a great way to practice because you just call and you get a chance to talk to the staffers in the office there about what is so critical. So we have a few points that we want to just make sure that everybody has, that you stay on message, because the conversation, if it drifts, can be really kind of problematic. And before you go into your meeting, agree on what your hard ask is. So a hard ask for Myra and for Katie likely was, we want you to know about HIV and we want the representative to know about the impact of HIV in the community, and we want to meet with you again. Our hard ask is, can we meet with you again? And so those are the steps of setting up the meeting. They're actually pretty simple. And again, like I said, we're going to share the slides with you. You'll have the recording. But what we want to do now is we want to stop and see if there are any questions that folks might have. Yeah, Susan.
Oh, yes. Hey, hi, everyone. So great to hear all this. Hey, I wanted to, I hope Kenya's still there too. Alma had to leave and put in the chat, and I wanted someone to address this maybe. She said, of course, like there's some areas and there are some representatives and some city council people and some people that represent Philadelphia that are setting up their own kind of meetings and let's say they don't want us to come in. But I wanted to respond to that by saying that matters and doesn't matter, because we have materials, we can talk to staffers, we can go in, we can actually do the things we do when we're bird dogging. And for people that get to Harrisburg, there's people like Malcolm Kenyatta, there's all these people that are part of the Black Caucus, there are people that are part of all the listeners to all the things we're presenting. And so I kind of wanted to say that, but I just wanted to say one more sentence and say thank you one more time for what Katie and Myra said, because the voter suppression, the gerrymandering that's already happened, like where in like so many of those states is going to stop the people that will vote for the money, the funding we need, because the districts are going to be changed so much if that's allowed to happen, way more than in just a few states. And the people that we need to vote for this real funding for the things we need everything's going to be changed about who's going to be like the Republicans clumped in a certain area and Black vote dismissed again.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that, Susan. Appreciate that, because it really is. That's why when we talk about that this is critical, like this is the moment that we all need to lean in and say that we're going to do something for each of us. It might be something different. It might be that we are more comfortable advocating from home. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make calls every single day, or we're going to do postcard writing or any of those kinds of things. And so that is absolutely correct. What we know is that we need to do something. Everyone needs to do something. And Crystal, I saw you turned your camera on. Did you have something you wanted to add here?
Oh, nothing to what Susan said. I saw this really good question from Alex, and I don't know if we answered it yet. The question was, do you need to have a prior relationship with an official's office or a reputable org supporting you to get a meeting? Did we already answer that? Because that was a really good question. I don't think we did. I'm not sure if we did. Did we answer that, Barb?
I don't think that we did. I would say, yeah, I can go ahead and take a pass at that. I would say no, it's not necessary. Because again, they are elected to represent us. And so having a meeting with a staffer is often fairly easy to start with. And by having multiple meetings with a staffer and being both someone who is able to advocate, but also to educate them, then means that if they have the elected official, whether it is a senator, a representative, a city council member, anyone, and they maybe have a question or want to talk to someone, want to hear a story that highlights perhaps something that they want to go ahead and even say on the House floor, they know who to reference because we know. Here's what I'll say. We know we're subject matter experts. We just need them to know that we're the subject matter experts. And so, like everything, it's sort of a building relationship. That is a great question. Yeah. And Myra put in the chat, no, where their constituents do feel it's good for people living with HIV and other community members to work together because of the intersection of issues. Great point, Myra. Thank you. We have Myra who also lifted up that she went to vote and they had her listed as an inactive voter. So that's going to be, we're going to see more and more of that as well. We're going to see people who are confused about their districts because of redistricting. And so much of what we're going to be talking about throughout this entire series, because we're going to do an entire section on how do you talk about issues from a C3, C4 perspective. We're going to talk about HR1 and how those issues inform what we're saying. We're going to talk about voter suppression. That one's coming up the end of June. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to talk about safety planning. We're going to talk about vote planning to make sure that you're registered before you go to vote. So this is a series that we are intending to really ensure that everyone is prepared, both to vote yourself, but also to make sure that your community is prepared to vote. Rook, hi.
Hi.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, locally me and a few PWNers were talking about contacting Emmanuel Cleaver, who's on the actual congressional caucus for the HIV/AIDS caucus. Is he a good person, or would we want to go to somebody who's not on the HIV caucus?
Is he your representative?
He's not mine personally. We were trying to get a town hall and scoot him under the CAC committee under our Ryan White Planning Council. None of the people making the decision are on the Planning Council, so we're having to scoot it to other people. Two Positive Women's Network people, 3 of us work for Ryan White funded agencies, so we're not really allowed to be political or be involved in any of this. So we're trying to house it under the CAC committee and have an open forum. We wanted him, the Ryan White case managers, and the positive people in the neighborhood, and the providers, but to have it closed-ish is we're trying to strategize this currently before we ask a congressperson and figure stuff out. Would you recommend him or someone who's not in the HIV caucus?
If you want to talk about the ongoing challenges in Missouri, I would say talking to him would absolutely be critical. And he would probably, as a member of the Congressional HIV Caucus, be really interested in finding a place where he could go and talk to people who are living with HIV, who are being impacted, as well as hearing from case managers. So that's a great question. That's the wonderful thing about this organizing that we're doing and talking, both gathering in groups and making sure that our elected officials know what is important to us, but also building relationships, is that there are lots of different tactics to get there. And so for this one, it might be a little bit different, and it might be something that you can, or have somebody from the planning council be able to share, because that's their perspective and is in the state and is able to talk about the issues that impact them. So yeah, all different things, many ways, and many great tactics and ideas. All of them I think are going to be important. I think we're going to need to really branch out and do a bunch of different approaches, because each is effective in a different way. So, all right, we are almost at time, and I'm going to go ahead and just share. This is the upcoming training. So as I mentioned, next up is the HR1 toolkit, then the power of the HIV vote, voter suppression, and the Supreme Court decision. Then in July, we're going to be talking about They Work for Us, C3 and C4, and how you can, what you can do and how you can talk to them. In August, it'll be storytelling. Then in September, it'll be voter registration and making a vote plan. And then in October, it'll be getting out the HIV vote, community safety on Election Day. So hopefully you are all able to join us for this. It's going to be an amazing series. Here is our contact information. If people can go ahead and just put up our phones, capture the QR code, and I'm also going to put it in the chat. This is our survey. Let us know how we did today, what you would like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of as we go through and continue to develop the rest of our PWN Votes series. And so we'll just go ahead and hang out here for a minute so that people can go ahead and capture that information. And please take a moment to let us know. Oh, sorry, Crystal, you got to hold up that baby there, because that is the cutest thing ever. I'm just going to go ahead and spotlight as we're doing our evaluation. Crystal has got a baby that you're holding up.
Barb, we'll save it for the parking lot crew that stays on afterwards. When we stop
Gotcha.
recording, and we can really talk.
Okay, gotcha. Excellent. Even better. So we are right at 30 minutes after. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to stop our recording.